and welcome to Convocation. We would like to acknowledge that we at the Pennington School learn, work, and live on the land of the Lenni Lenape people. Through our honor, virtue, and humility, we recognize that actively caring for and developing our own personal connections with nature will help us begin to honor and appreciate all that these homelands mean. This acknowledgement reminds us of our continual responsibility to respect this land and all its stewards, past, present, and future. I'd like to invite you, if it's part of your tradition, to pray with me. If not, I invite you to consider the meaning that this evening has to you and your family. Let us pray. Creator and sustainer of life, we ask that you would bless our time here this evening. Be near to us this year and help each one of us, uniquely and individually, to know the love, kindness, joy, peace, and acceptance that is available in a place like the Pennington School. May our year be full of blessing and one without great pivoting or the need of monumental responses. Let us rest in the normalcy and rhythm of a year unbroken. Amen.
Good evening. What a beautiful evening it is. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to formally welcome all the students, parents, faculty, administrators, trustees, and friends who are here this evening to help celebrate the beginning of the Pennington School's 185th academic year. Recently, a student asked me two questions. The first was, Mr. Tucci, what's the purpose of Convocation? And the second question, which I thought was a little impertinent, was, why do I have to go to Convocation? Well, I'll try to answer both of those questions briefly. Since for many new members of the Pennington community, this may be the very first Convocation they have ever attended, I will start with a little background. The word Convocation comes from the Latin word convocare, meaning to come together, to convene. It refers to a group of people who formally assemble for a special purpose, usually ecclesiastical or academic. The origins of convocations date back to the end of the 7th century, when Theodore of Tarsus, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury, reorganized the structure of the Church in England and held convocations for bishops. Many centuries later, convocations began to be convened for academic as well as ecclesiastical purposes. Universities such as Oxford and Cambridge began to hold convocations at the beginning of their academic year. Pennington long ago adopted the same practice. Since then, convocations have become a very important part of Pennington's extremely rich tradition. The purpose of convocation at Pennington is threefold. First, it is the formal ceremony marking the beginning of a new academic year. The second, it is a means of welcoming new members to the Pennington community. And third, it provides the head of school with an opportunity to address the entire school community and outline his message for the coming year. This year, Dr. Hawkey's message will be the power of stories. I know that was a very long-winded answer to the first question. The answer to the second question is quite simple. That question was, why do I have to come to convocation? And it's because Dean Bridges says you have to come. Thank you, students, and good luck this academic year.
Good evening, Dr. Hawkey, trustees, students, friends and family, and my fellow faculty and staff. While I might be a little nervous to be standing here in front of all of you today, I'm also truly honored to help welcome you into the 2022-2023 school year. This is my 12th year at Pennington, and while I've never envied anyone standing up here, I've always looked forward to Convocation and the feelings of joy and excitement that the ceremony brings, inspires in the community. And now it's my turn to speak on behalf of the faculty as we begin the new year. I am a lifelong reader who had big pre-med dreams in college until I discovered that I didn't quite thrive in those anatomy courses. Thankfully, I also discovered that I couldn't stay out of an English class, which led to my becoming a teacher. So here I am. Naturally, when people found out that I'd be speaking tonight and that the theme is the power of stories, I got a lot of, well, that'll be easy for you. You're an English teacher. One of those things is true. I am an English teacher. But coming up with a meaningful thing to say about the power of stories was definitely not easy. That's a pretty big theme, and there's so much to say about the power of stories. And as a lifelong reader who became an English teacher, you can imagine that I have a lot of feelings about it. As my students will tell you, I can get pretty worked up when talking about the emotional arc of a great novel or thinking about how a character's journey of self-discovery can teach us about our own humanity, our vulnerabilities, and our power. I mortify my students every year when I cry at the end of Their Eyes Were Watching God and at the end of The Great Gatsby. I get emotional because I find those stories so incredibly honest in their portrayal of humanity and all of its messiness and its love, its weakness, and its strength, and all of its possibilities. I even have tattoos of a dragon on my foot that reminds me of my favorite stories. I'm a nerd for stories. But for me, stories go beyond my own nerdiness or the English classroom. I like to think that you can find a story in every space on this campus. There are obviously stories in English and in the arts, and in the black box, in philosophy and religion, but maybe you could argue that there are also stories central to our understanding of biology, that there's narrative structure in chemistry, and you definitely have to understand perspective to be a good student of history. Math helps us tell stories through logic and statistics. And most of all, there are stories in the work we do together to build this community every day. As a teacher, and in particular as a diversity practitioner, I have the honor of carrying the stories of my students with me each year. I think of my work as building an incredibly rich text. My practice and journey as a teacher is like creating a palimpsest. It's a real word, look it up. Made up of each student, each colleague, each story that's been shared with me. Each person a page, each year a chapter, each story enriching my life. I hope that as I learn each of your stories, I can use part of them to help someone else navigate their own one day. That's a long and mixed metaphor, which I like to do a lot, as a way of saying I love being a teacher, and I especially love being a teacher at Pennington. My story of becoming a teacher isn't particularly interesting, but my story of finding myself as an educator is all about the relationships that I've made along the way. Everyone from my own high school teachers that saw something in me to the students that I just met earlier this week have contributed their stories to mine. And what I love about Pennington is that I think we're truly invested in each other's stories. As we start this new school year, I invite all of you to really commit to learning one another. Ask each other questions that allow people to share their authentic selves. What brings you joy? What's your perfect day? What matters to you? What's the best animated series, and why is it Avatar: The Last Airbender? I told you I was a nerd. We talk about it at Pennington all the time, and that's because it matters. Our community is powerful because it has shared purpose. And while we don't all have the same experiences here or have the same stories to tell when we go home, we can build something meaningful from all of those different stories, an anthology of experience built on empathy, on being invested in each other's growth and success, helping each other fill in the blank pages when we have a little bit of writer's block. We have an opportunity in this community to see each other as we are, without judging a book by its cover, to seek out a story that's different from ours, maybe not in our first language, hopefully one that challenges our assumptions about the world and perhaps invites us to amplify the voices of those stories who are going untold or being silenced. Again, a mixed metaphor, but hopefully you can catch my drift by now. I'll leave you with one of my own stories. I grew up on the West Coast and never saw a lightning bug or a firefly until I was in 8th grade. I have a lot of lovely memories, stories, of chasing lightning bugs with my siblings, staying up late around a fire with my friends and watching them blink through the night, and now watching my own children chase fireflies in the early evenings in June. This past summer, we were welcomed to our Airbnb in upstate New York by the most glorious symphony of fireflies off in the forest, blinking in unison. I'd never seen anything like it. I say this because just a couple of weeks ago, I learned that fireflies, when they flash together, they're more likely to find a mate, to be successful in their purpose. And when they flash separately, they're less likely to achieve their goal. As we start a new year together, it felt like the perfect example of the power of individuals, each with their own story, their own light, finding a way to see someone else's story and shine a light on it, creating a more vibrant community in the process. So I invite all of us to be like fireflies this year, to see that when we work together, when we know each other deeply and authentically, and we're united in shared purpose, we can be our best selves. When all of our lights are shining, our Pennington story will be a bright one. I look forward to a great year, learning your stories and sharing more of mine with you. Thank you.
When I went home to Mexico for the summer, my friends and family asked me, what is the best part of Pennington? I enthusiastically responded that everything was amazing, fantastic, and fun. I told them about the dining hall food, the weekend trips we did as a boarding community, the campus facilities such as the art room and the gym, and my friends, classes, and teachers. Everything was wonderful. But as I thought about it more and more, I realized that the best part of Pennington is its community. I'm Elena Cohen, and tonight I'm going to tell you how the community at Pennington welcomed me in. After coming from a pandemic and an entire school year online in Mexico City, I often felt nervous and insecure about coming to school in New Jersey. My school back home was big. We had at least 27 kids per class. The teachers were strict and their attitudes were cold, and the student community wasn't positive or nice. This worried me that Pennington might be the same. So I consulted with my mother and asked her anxiously, will I fit in? Will I be smart enough? Despite my different questions, her answers never changed. She always said to me, with confidence, that she wasn't sending me to prison. It was just school. She even confirmed that if I liked it, I could stay another year. I just nodded, but at that point, I wasn't open to that option. Finally, the day came when we arrived at the famous Pennington School. The campus was so big, yet so small, beautiful, but scary. Later on that day, I met the international boarding students. All the students were from different countries and spoke a variety of languages. When I talked to them, I learned that they were also nervous and scared, and this reassured me that I was not the only one. Days and weeks went by, and I missed my home in Mexico. It was hard being away from my family at such a young age, but I started to enjoy it more as time went on. I began to fit in more and made a lot of friends. Boarding life was amazing. Jiwoo, my roommate, and I used to watch exercising videos really late at night and talk about anything and everything. On the weekends at school, we did extravagant activities like going to New York City or going bowling, or on a trip as simple as going to the mall. I liked these trips because they made me feel independent and they were experiences I did not have back home. I also spent a lot of time with my host family. I loved passing time with them, hiking, visiting the aquarium, going for lunch, and so much more. They became like a second family to me. During the school days, my classes were interesting and I loved learning. At lunch, I sat with my day student friends, and it was easily the highlight of my day. In the afternoon, during the year, I played field hockey, danced, and even participated in the school play. I never wanted to miss any of these activities because it was a relaxing time in my day. In a blink of an eye, it was already March. I couldn't believe it. To quote Anne Frank, you never realize how much you've changed until after it's happened. It's precisely what happened. At the beginning of the year, I was shy and scared, but then I recognized that I never wanted to leave Pennington. It became like a second home to me. That's how much I changed, and the rest is now history. I want to say one last thing. I hope this year is fantastic for everybody, and I'm excited to be part of this Pennington school community where I now welcome new people just like others welcomed me. Thank you and good night.
Wow. I was going to start off taking my be real, but I didn't get the notification, so. All right. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ronan Sungmin Huang, but I also go by Ronyan, Ro, Rodog, Rodiesel, Ryan, Ricky, and many more names. Now, those other names I've never had until I got here. Anyone Korean would always call me Sungmin, and anyone who spoke English would always refer to me as Ronan. Ronan, of course, isn't my legal name. It came from an Irish colleague of my mom's who thought that Ronan would be a good fit for me. The first chapter of my story starts in Hong Kong. Although I was born in Korea, I moved to Hong Kong a couple months after I was born, and I went to a British international school up to the 8th grade. As I approached high school, my parents and I decided that it would be good for me to go to the school in the United States, and the next thing I knew, I found myself in Pennington, New Jersey. When I first got here, I didn't know much, and I was extremely anxious. I didn't even know where Pennington was before I got here. I thought I was going to be mature enough and ready for this new transition. However, that Monday, seeing my parents and my little brother Justin for the last time really made me feel that I was alone. I found myself trying to adjust, and the first day of orientation didn't help, as I had a somewhat embarrassing but funny and memorable experience that I'll never forget. On the first day of school, nervous to talk to people, I found myself on the bus sitting next to this guy I've never met in my life, and luckily, I found the courage to talk to him. I remember before we got on the bus, each person introduced themselves to the group, and he mentioned that he played a sport, so I made sure to use that to initiate a conversation. I looked at him, introduced myself, and we started talking. Then the sports conversation came up, so I asked him, "So Caleb, what sports do you play?" And he responded, "Well, I play basketball and baseball." And I went, "No way, no way." I then asked him if he was any good at baseball or not, because being honest, I wanted to know if I was better at baseball than he was. He replied to me with, "I'm pretty good, but I'm not sure now, as I haven't played in a minute." When he said, "in a minute," I thought he meant he had just played that morning or the day before. More like a literal minute. So I looked at him and I said, "Well, you can't be rusty, you just played yesterday." And after I said that, he paused, looked at me, and he started laughing. And for those of you who don't know, "in a minute" can be interpreted as, "it's been a while since." Once he explained it to me, I realized the American slang was something I wasn't used to, and there were plenty more things that I would most likely need to acclimate to. From who I was then to who I am standing here now, I will admit that I've learned a lot. Strangers have turned into friends, friends are now family, and those awkward experiences have developed into core memories. I always thought that it'd be hard to fit into the Pennington community. Not being from the States, I thought it was going to be a long and lonely road to graduation. But if the 3 years here have taught me anything, it's to get out there, be proactive, and be part of this community. The community. Anytime the Pennington school conversation comes up, people always ask me, "What do you like about Pennington?" And I proceed to give the same answer of the community. We always talk about how unique and special the community is, but trying to explain the Pennington community is the most difficult thing, because this welcoming aura that you feel is something you can only experience when you're a part of it. The Pennington community helped me find who I am The Pennington community helped me find who I am and made me realize that I needed to create my own story instead of letting it be written for me. Part of my story is that without these people sitting here, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Coming back from a COVID freshman and sophomore year, I found myself writing my story in many ways. As a junior proctor, prefect, and peer leader, I was able to put myself out there and discover who I was as an individual. As an athlete, I experienced an unforgettable Pennington baseball season, as well as connected with those I shared passions and hobbies with, such as Andrew, who would go to those tiring 6 a.m. workouts with me, Will, Caleb, and Tom, who couldn't have been any nicer to my family and I this summer, and Bryce, who always motivated me to practice after school with him. He would also let me know how bad I am at ping pong. Finally, the residential life has a special place in my heart, since this was where most of my eventful and unforgettable moments happened, whether that would be in the campus center, the gym, or the dining hall with Nick, Elias, Naz, and many others. These are just some of the many people who have helped me flourish and transform this community into my second home. But enough of my story. I think it's time for our class to tell our story. Let's get a round of applause for the 2023 class. Yeah? Seniors, we've come a long way. From being obnoxiously loud in the campus center and hearing the annoyed upperclassmen, to half-awake Zoom calls that no one could get up for, to a somewhat normal junior year, but let's be honest, nothing was truly normal these past 3 crazy years. And here we are, saving the best for last, as I like to call it. There's nothing much to say other than this is it, something I've come to realize. Maybe some of the adults here can relate, but time moves faster as you get older. So embrace it. Have fun with the time we have left together. Be productive. Create your own story. And don't finish this chapter of your book on a cliffhanger or a regretful what-if moment. If you aren't part of the glorious 2023 class, trust me when I say to get out there. Join that club you always wanted to do but shied away from. The Pennington community develops characters, and you just need to get out there and find out how exactly Pennington can help you grow. I know sometimes it can be difficult to take that leap of faith, but understand that this community will help develop your story with open arms. Those roommates, strangers, classmates, teachers, and parents each have their own unique story, and it's always intriguing to find out how diverse of a community we are. You'll share stories, find passions, and form funny, memorable, and crucial experiences and relationships. What is your story going to look like? Thank you. Have a good night.
Every year I say, don't follow the student speaker, and that's the reason why you don't follow a student speaker. Mr. Tucci, thank you for your lovely welcome. Ms. S., Elena, and Ronan, thank you for sharing some of your stories with us tonight. It's a great way to kick off a great year. And Reverend Halgren, of course, thank you for your invocation. I want to, if I could, just take a second to welcome the trustees that are with us this evening. They're here, some of them are here in the front row, if you wouldn't mind just standing up to be acknowledged by our community. So I always adjust my remarks based on where we are in the program, and I always think of Convocation as about an hour long, so it's 7:31, so it gives me 29 minutes to speak to you tonight. Settle in. Seriously, it won't take that long. Seniors, I want to say thank you for showing your support and respect for the faculty during the processional. And I also want to give a shout out to a young man who sat out his senior year last year. as he was temporarily sidelined with some significant medical issues. But he's back with us this year, and I know that we are all thankful. Let's show some love for our classmate, Phil Ross. We have a tradition at Convocation to recognize our lifers. And for those of you who are new to the community, lifers are students who started in 6th grade who made it all the way to senior year, or boarding students who started in 7th or 8th grade who are here with us tonight. This year we have 21 lifers in the class of 2023. And I'd like to ask all of you just to stand to be recognized by our community. Thank you. I'll recognize them individually at graduation. So for me, Convocation is a time to remind those of you who are returning, and to those of you who are new to the Pennington family, to let you know that we do observe and enjoy some rich traditions here, and it is our responsibility, I believe, to uphold those traditions. One of these traditions is to learn about and embrace our core values of honor, virtue, and humility. There are plenty of references to these core values around the campus, the most obvious being the 3 benches over here in front of Meckler Library that are named Honor, Virtue, and Humility. But let me tell you a little bit about the story that this refers to. We go back over 100 years ago, 1921, when headmaster Dr. Francis Harvey Green was so inspired by the 3 gates of honor, virtue, and humility at Cambridge University in England that he established the Gateways Society here at Pennington, Pennington's first honor society. This society recognized a chosen few juniors and seniors each year who exhibited good scholarship, strong character, personal integrity, and lived with a spirit of fellowship with respect for all and malice toward none. Later in Dr. Green's tenure as head in 1939, in a wooded grove where our Meckler Library stands today, Dr. Green had 3 brick, stone, and concrete arches erected with the words honor, virtue, and humility. Picture a much smaller version of Stonehenge. That was over there. And this is where the Gateway ceremony was held each year, when a small handful of junior and senior boys were picked for the Gateway Society. The society was eventually replaced by the Tri-Steps Club around 1941, and then in 1969, the Gateway arches were taken down and made into benches to make way for the construction of Meckler Library. Several years ago, the class of 2011 raised money to replace the original concrete Gateway benches, and that is what we see over on the Meckler lawn today. 6 years ago, I introduced the Gateway Prize during Prize Day ceremonies, where select members of the junior and senior class are recognized, those who embody our school values. So that's a little bit of history of Pennington. I believe that your teachers, coaches, and advisors will always encourage you to be cognizant of these values. Also, at this time of year, I always think about Pennington's long history, and this being our 185th school year. I want to challenge each of you to make a difference while you are here. It could be a small thing or something more impactful, but even the effort, I believe, will be rewarding, and the result will be a school that you will eventually graduate from in better shape than when you first arrived. Another aspect of our school community that is notable is the culture of kindness that exists here. And I think that you heard reference to that prior to me. I recently read an article in a psychology journal about the power of random acts of kindness. And I would say to all of you new members to Pennington that this is something that is part of our school culture. Researchers in this study found that people who perform a random act of kindness often underestimate how much the recipient will appreciate it, and that this miscalculation could hold many of us back from doing nice things for others more often. Now, I know from firsthand experience that being on the receiving end of a random act of kindness is wonderful and can indeed be memorable. A case in point, about 4 years ago, I was sitting alone at lunch in the dining hall. No one surprised by that? I was sitting alone at lunch in the dining hall. And a young man approached me and asked if I would like some company. I think that at the time, Matt Pasalacqua was in 6th grade when he joined me for lunch. And here I am over 4 years later talking about it as if it had happened yesterday. That's a pretty memorable impact. Miss Bell, member of our faculty, 9th grade biology teacher, is a fantastic baker. Did you know that? Well, every once in a while, out of nowhere, I will find a little package on my desk with 2 cookies in it, and it absolutely makes my day. Memorable impact. As my stepfather, Dr. Edmund Cervone, always used to tell me, never turn away from a kind or generous impulse. Trust your gut when you are moved to do something nice for someone else. So students, trust your generous instincts. And I urge you to think about these words from my wife's Grandma Bella. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. So here I am at Convocation. I'd like to give a little shout out to the collective group of new students that are joining us. They are impressive academically. They are impressive artistically, in the service that they do, athletically, and of course in character. New students have made their mark by achieving first in scholarship at many of their previous schools. They've earned distinctions in STEM fields, poetry and essay writing competitions, different entrepreneurship initiatives, and so on. In service initiatives, they have helped reduce use and reliance on plastics and served a community in a park cleanup and restoration. There's a young farmer out there who employed technology and a love and respect of the land to promote his family's farm. We have a student out here who helped raise 6 goats during COVID, one in her bedroom, bottle feeding that little goat. There are new students who excel in theater, music, and dance. At least one tap dancer out there. That's near and dear to my heart. She also plays piano and viola. So maybe we'll see her at a fall coffee house this year. And some additional fun facts about this class of new students. They number 133 in total, representing 26 different countries and nationalities. There are 50 new boarding students in this number, and the admit rate overall for this past admission season was just under 27%. So you're all in a very select group. This year we have 143 boarding students, making our residential program one of the largest ever. Now, before you get swollen heads, new students, I want you to know that you're joining an outstanding group of returning students, especially members of this great class of 2023. I think that our unofficial mantra here is work hard, play hard. This community works as hard in the classroom as it does in the activities they join. From the arts and STEM to athletic teams and various club organizations, Pennington students are busy and they aspire to bring their best each and every day. That is a lot to live up to, new students, but we know you can do it. The opportunities abound here at Pennington, and I want to ask each of you, what new thing are you going to try this year? I also want to give a shout out to a couple of things that are new around the campus or relatively new. One thing in particular, the campus center has a new name on it. It is the Martini Music, Arts, and Community Center, which we can now refer to more simply as the MAC. And thanks to the Parents for Pennington, we have new landscaping around the outdoor volleyball pit, and we'll have new furniture next week. You notice on our way in that the red-tailed hawk statue is new as of this past spring, and there are more exciting changes that will be happening this year as we get into the school year. Now, Convocation is also an opportunity for me to share the theme. And as you heard from Mr. Tucci and Miss S., and references from Ronan and Elena, this year's theme is the power of stories. This should be of no great surprise as it complements our summer reading theme. And if you were paying attention, you have already heard me share some Pennington stories tonight. For me, the beauty of stories is far-reaching. Stories help to form our beliefs. Stories shape us and help us to see other perspectives. Every emotion under the sun can be experienced through stories, which adds richness to all of our lives. I like to think that we take the time to listen to stories here at Pennington and to learn about other people's stories. This happens in places like classrooms, chapel, advisory, and dorm rooms, and we get glimpses of stories when we are together for events on campus like Community Day, Cultural Fair, Alumni Weekend, Homecoming, and more. The teachers that you students will be spending a whole lot of time with this year are instinctive and skilled listeners and genuinely engaged with the personal narratives that fill the spaces of Yen, the Mac, Sparks Gym, Meckler, Staunton, and Old Main. As head of school, I love to listen to your stories about classes, personal experiences, successes, and yes, failures. Anything that you can throw at me, I'd love to listen to. Alumni love to return to campus at Homecoming and Alumni Weekend to tell the stories that moved them, that shaped them, that transformed them while they were here as students. And I'm lucky enough to hear those stories. And so before I end tonight, I wanted to share one little short and sweet story with you. And it goes like this. Back in 2009, on the very first day of a new school year, probably much like yesterday, a young new 9th grade boy found himself following a group of kids to the gym right after eating lunch. Before he knew it, he was joining a pickup basketball game with kids from the middle school and some from his grade. One young girl caught his attention who appeared so confident, carefree, strong-willed, and of course, now he would say she was pretty cute. They said all of 2 words that day to each other. Probably went something like this. Hey. Hi. And they never spoke again during their high school years. Never. So when young Sam got home after the first day of school in 2009, his mom asked him how his day was. And instead of blowing him off, like I know a lot of you do when your parents ask that question of you, he said to her, "The day was fantastic. I think I met the girl I'm going to marry." That's a pretty bold statement for a 13-year-old boy to make. So, Sam Goldberg, class of 2012, is set to marry Ellie Jarbo, class of 2014, tomorrow, just about 13 years to the day after they met in 2009. So, I'm throwing it out there, students. I mean, look around. Who knows? Who knows? I love stories like that. And actually, it's not just a singleton out there. There are many of those things that happened at Pennington over the years. It's wonderful. And it happens to be the only reason that kept Mrs. Jarbo from being with us tonight, because she's planning a wedding tomorrow. She loves Convocation more than anyone, so there had to be something pretty significant to keep her away tonight. And that's where she is. But she and her team in the admission office are responsible for all of you students being with us this year. So let's give her a round of applause. I think the simple truth about stories, everyone, is that stories make the world a better place. The ones we love to recall and even the ones we would rather forget. So students, I leave you with this question tonight. What will your story be after this year? Thank you, and let's have a fantastic year.
After the benediction, I would like to invite our speakers, trustees, and faculty to recess out as the music plays. We'd ask that you stay in your seats until all of them have been able to leave the tent area. I invite you to stand now to receive this blessing. As we leave this celebration, please receive this blessing. May you run the race that you have this year with confidence, humility, and wonder. When you stumble, know that you have help. When you succeed, know that you have others to share with. And in the midst of all of your academic, theatrical, athletic, and social ups and downs, know that you are never alone. May God bless you and keep you as we begin our year together. Amen.
Amen.
Do you want to do Rondo one more time for funsies?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking to play, you know.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Julie, can we do Rondo like? Okay, wait. What's a good spot to the end? Not the whole thing. Can we do 53 to the end? Sure. Yeah, of Rondo. Of the Rondo. It's just my favorite tune. Thanks. I love that one. Okay, good job, everyone.
Thanks for putting this together.
Yes, of course. Oh, I'm on the microphone again. Hi.
Thanks for providing the music. Okay. Thanks so much, Genevieve. I forgot to give Don, I think his name is Dr. Don, my W-9. I'm just going to email it to him. I gave him my address. I just didn't give him the W-9.
Oh, did he? Okay. Yep, emails is perfect.
In case he asks you, I'm going to go home and
Okay, awesome. I can do that. Thank you for letting me know.
today.
That's fine. Did he ask you for one too? Like a W-9? Oh,
I sent it.
oh, I'm already enrolled here. That's why I'm.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't get asked for like a W-9 because you've been here before. Oh, okay, that's smart. So yeah, put the music back in the folders, whatever order. I'll organize it when I get home. And I think that's the plan. Wow, good job, everyone. That was, okay, how good was that timing, though? That was great. That timing was good. Proud of us.